Blue versus gold, the UCLA inter-squad scrimmage. Who won? We all did, because they're freaking good.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever it's your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for your support. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. All you got to do is create an account, download the app, use the code LOCKEDONCollege, and you get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Where we get started today is the scrimmage that happened on October the 15th for the UCLA men's basketball team, which was basically Cronin showcasing in front of limited eyes then, and then to now, as we read the report, see how it came through, see photos of a team that last year probably wasn't good enough. This year, either one of the two squads would have beaten last year's starting five, even with the Defensive Player of the Year in the Pac-12 Conference on one of those teams, even with some growing high-quality star-like talent coming from international waters to test the college game. No, UCLA, extremely talented. So let's go over the reports and what it means for the UCLA Bruins in this year's team, all right? So kind of taken from different reports, look at the LA Times, written up wonderfully by Ben Bulge. This is what the score was for this game. This was a team that was split in half, right? You had a 64-57 win for the gold team. All right. This was a scrimmage that was played without a Daimata. He is still hurt. He is still recovering. But all the reports, and most importantly, what is the biggest thing and biggest win for UCLA fans, for the UCLA team in general? The depth and the ability to score. Last year, UCLA couldn't score, and it was ugly. Like, it was just like, oh, my goodness. What was that game against Villanova or Ohio State? Sitting there, watching it in the middle of the day, watching it late at night, whatever it was. You sit there, you're watching these games, whether they're playing Hawaii. They couldn't score consistently. They could not score. With consistency, the Bruins couldn't put the ball in the basket. In this game alone, Dominick Harris put up 20. That's not someone I have in my projected starting lineup. UCLA's latest guy to come to the team after having to deal with all the summer classes to get from his third school, who is one of the best shooters in the country, not just the conference, one of the best scorers. Probably the Big Ten is going to see this. You might not even you might not even be in the starting lineup. Dave Singleton 2.0 in the form of Dominick Harris is what he's being referred to as, right? Scored 20 points, hit 4 threes. And that's not somebody I have in my starting lineup. And I don't think I'm an idiot for saying that, right? That's a kid who might not be in the starting lineup. He's put up 20 points to lead his team from a 10-point deficit against a lot of returners on the other side. Like, that is how good this team is. All right, let's try and figure it out. Who was on which team? Let's dissect that. So, for the winning team, the gold, this is what you had. Dominick Harris, 20 points. That's not somebody I have in my starting lineup, but I know he'll play a lot of minutes. I just don't think he'll start, and UCLA can go use somebody else. They got Sky Clark, who I have as the starting two guard. He had 13 points. Eric Daly Jr., someone who's being forgotten about and won't start this year. He will play significant minutes, can be inserted in the lineup at any time, and may work his way into the starting lineup. Eric Daly Jr. had 12 points. Eric Freeney, the first commit in the class of 24, he had 8 points. William Kyle III with 6 points. And then Lazar Stefanovic, the lone returner on the gold team, the biggest, loudest voice in that locker room, had 5 points. All right, quiet night for somebody who played a majority of the minutes. And last year at this time, I was talking about how Mick Cronin couldn't and wouldn't take him off the floor. And that largely proved to be the case last year. This year, that man is going to be fighting for minutes to play this year, behind the blue squad that was led by Kobe Johnson and company. So, what did UCLA have? In the blue team, Sebastian Mack, Tyler Bilodeau, Devin and Brandon Williams, Trent Perry, Kobe Johnson, Dylan Andrews. In that, I see a little bit of a mismatch in the post between the gold and the blue team, although on the blue team, I do see a heavy emphasis of guards, which they had Dylan Andrews, Kobe Johnson, they had Trent Perry. They had a little bit of size with Brandon and Devin Williams, a scoring threat, Bilodeau, and a renowned, a rejuvenated Sebastian Mack. Mack led the blue squad in this blue and gold scrimmage with 15 points. Bilodeau was apparently showcasing his form to score all the time with 13 points. Devin Williams with 9. He was, I believe, the tallest player on the floor. Maybe not the most athletic, but he still put in buckets. Brandon Williams, who started majority of the games last year, part of that high percentage of players returning and scored for UCLA this year, that's probably not going to see a lot of minutes. He was there. Trent Perry, I would like to see him get minutes, but if you see Dominick Harris, you see Eric Freeney, you see Sky Clark, you see Sebastian Mack balling, I just wonder where these two freshmen are going to get minutes. Although Perry keeps getting a lot of high praise from his own teammates in these interview sessions, and he bowled at the Ricos runs, the runs where the NBA players take on current/former college players at UCLA's basketball facilities. Perry looked nice. Then you've got Kobe Johnson, not going to be a scoring threat, pick somebody's pockets, had 6 points. Dylan Andrews, funny enough, in this game, only had 4 points. So the guy who is expected, I thought, has a chance to maybe be a leading scorer, he scored the least amount of points. Last year's leading scorer on this team, who took a big role increase, had the least amount of points for UCLA in a scrimmage. And that's not a bad thing. That is absolutely not a bad thing. UCLA's floor general starting point guard, who was the guy who went on a scoring surge to be the leading scorer of last year's 23-24 team, 16 and 17 overall, upper half of the Pac-12 standings. And he's scoring the least in a blue versus gold scrimmage. Let that sink in. All these things I've been telling you, how deep this team is. Like, dude, the guy who was leading, the two main guys who were, I think, guaranteed starting spots, Dylan Andrews, Kobe Johnson. And their team lost. Last year's second leading or third leading scorer, Sebastian Mack. That team lost to the returners. The guy who couldn't see minutes on the floor, who couldn't see minutes off the floor, in Lazar Stefanovic. A lot of guys who did big things might not play. And if they buy into this system this season, the Mick Cronin statement is going to be true. They're going to need oxygen. And I think we're going to have to breathe and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. And the opponents, they're going to be breathing in and out very quickly because this team is relentless. Let's look into more reports and what it means for UCLA going forward about this inter-squad scrimmage. I think where you're going to want to go to is Game Time, because Game Time has tickets for all events, right? There's sporting events, concert shows. They have many tickets, but you're going to want to use Game Time and check out how to get tickets for the UCLA men's basketball team, right? And the women's team, for crying out loud. And of course, we still need to show some support for the football team, but we're going to be excited. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Just pick up an upcoming game, right? UCLA starts at home November 4th. Go check it out with Game Time because you can see where you're sitting. Seat views, panoramic views from inside Pauley Pavilion, from your seat in the app before you buy. Just check it out with Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. I keep reading from the reports. All right, the transfers, the newcomers, schooled the returners. I think Cronin wanted to throw one returner on one side and Stefanovic, and you bring in some newcomers, some youngsters, some veteran leaders on the other. And Cronin wanted to mix and match. But large in part, I think the biggest thing was that Sebastian Mack is not going to go down without a fight. That's what I've seen posted and talked about by Ben Bulch. And that when the kid's leading a squad of an inter-squad game, 5-6 guys, he's putting up 15. Yes, I remember some of you guys keep posting, talking about Mack's still going to be a player. This kid was battling with a toe injury last year that probably I did not talk a lot about. And he played through it. Mick Cronin probably didn't like his defense. He didn't fully have the ability to finish near the rim. But that dude could get to the cup, man. Sebastian Mack could get to the cup sometimes at will. He just stopped getting fouled. and maybe didn't convert his free throws at a high rate and didn't go to the free throw line 13 times a game, but the kid's healthy, then my initial starting line, this is what I remember it being. Months ago, I went Dylan Andrews, I went Sebastian Mack, Johnson, Bilodeau, and William Kyle. And then I flip-flopped thinking, I think Sky Clark might get that nod. But Mack is not going down without a fight. These are guys that could have gone elsewhere, could have transferred out, and they're battling for minutes. They're going to be battling for minutes. So last year, Sebastian Mack, if he wasn't banged up, probably would have been like the leading scorer. Like literally would be the leading scorer if he didn't have such a late season freshman decline, possibly due to injury, wear and tear, being banged up, and just a lot different game planning and needing to be a number one offense on a team that had no offense. When they could triple team him and he wasn't a consistent shooter, this year that's a lot different. He could be put in situations to succeed where that meager less than 30%, that 20+% three-point shooting percentage for Mack, he can take high-quality looks. He can cut to the basket. You put him on the floor as a cutter, and you've got Dominick Harris on the floor on the wing. Maybe you throw Mack as a unique one. You put Harris as the 2, or maybe you go small ball. You play Bilodeau as a 5. You stick Johnson as a weird 4. You get Harris as a 3. You put somebody else, and you get Mack driving. He can go layup or kick in the corner for a 3. Who put up 20 against a returning unit with Kobe Johnson, an elite defender? Dude, like this team is going to not be the 22nd best team in the country. All right. They will be much better, I believe. And yes, I do believe they're going to take losses. There's no way this team won't take any losses. They're not going to sit there at the end of the season unbeaten. The schedule's too tough. The travel's too much. They have a lot to gel. And there's not necessarily a number one dude. And at some point, somebody needs to be the number one dude. Yes, the loudest voice is going to be maybe the guy with the least amount of minutes in Stefanovic. The lead by example, that's Kobe Johnson. You still need that vocal leader. He came over from SC last year. All right? You still got to learn what it's like to be in the blue and gold. Dylan Andrews, by all accounts, is maybe not the most vocal of leaders, according to Mick Cronin. So, we'll lead by example guy. Who's going to take those last-minute shots, right? There's closing minutes, there's closing shots, and then there's the last shot. Those are all what UCLA needs to settle. The starting 5, the closing 5, the last-minute shots that you're going to try and design for players, and who gets the game on the line and takes the shot. Obviously, it's different when you need a 3, if you're going for the win, or if you need to get to the cup, or if you want a layup, then some of those opportunities will go to Dylan Andrews, who can get himself a nice baseline jumper with his athletic ability and drive ability. Okay, this UCLA team is going to be extremely fantastic to watch. And what I did like was that Daly Jr. put in some points. He's supposed to have an improved three-point stroke from Oklahoma State to now. You got Freeney, the youngster, a guy who I'm thinking is going to get forgotten about on this year's team, scrapping and clawing for minutes, putting in 8 points. William Kyle, I think maybe might have a little bit of limited offensive skill set, but if he can turn around, get handoffs with how deep this team can spread out the floor, might get more points than not. All right. Post scoring might be a little limited with the athletic big men they have, like Kyle, or what's supposed to be a much stronger Adai Mara in the post. And with Devin Williams supposedly probably not ready just yet. Still UCLA, it's going to be fun. All right. This is what Darren Savino had to say about Dominick Harris. A great weapon because you have to know where he is at all times. If you don't find him, he can all of a sudden make 3 threes and the game has changed, all right? Remember, this is a game that the blue team was up 10 points and the gold team came back to win, all right, if I've got that correct. So the team that came back to win, the gold team won by 7. We're down 10 points early. There is talked about how Dylan Andrews and Kobe Johnson trapped Clark, forced him into a turnover, and then it turned into all of a sudden a complete different game when Dominick Harris got going from downtown and made some buckets. That's the kid who's been there in the camp the least amount, right? Get all those guys who've been there for months, getting to camp, getting to school, learning how to play together, and they will be very, very, very good. Cronin's quote, "Our opponents are going to need oxygen because the Bruins are going to suffocate them defensively and they're going to make him run up and down the court. Cronin's teased the full court press. He has teased the ability to trap. He's talked about the way they can score in different ways. Each guy, it seems like, has multi-layered, multifaceted ways to go out and get a bucket, right? Whether it's Dominick Harris, who can drive and shoot. You've got Dylan Andrews with an improved three-point stroke. He can cut to the hoop. Mack, if he's healthy, can certainly get to the lane. Daly Jr. has been improving his three-point shot. William Kyle allows UCLA to have an interior presence to finish. Maybe he doesn't have the moves just yet, but he's got the athleticism to probably finish, hopefully better than an Adem Bona rate, although Bona was getting much better by the time his UCLA career ended. All right. Then there's a couple of freshmen you got to figure out between Freeney and Perry. This team is going to be fun. And what's unique is that UCLA, their closed-door scrimmages against San Diego State. Remember a couple of years ago, we got those numbers. We read it. UCLA played San Diego State in a closed-door scrimmage and won that game. It was a high-scoring game. It was a thriller. UCLA put in some points. The Hawkeses, the Tiger Campbells of the world. And UCLA won the Pac-12. They beat San Diego State in that closed-door scrimmage. San Diego State, who's now going to lead the mantle of the future Pac-12, current Mountain West team, they went on to play UConn in the national championship game. So we got to take a note about these closed-door scrimmages and see what it means. Last year, I think UCLA played Santa Clara, if I'm not mistaken, lost, couldn't score. I mean, there are a couple players out, mind you. UCLA did not have their full assessment of players with injuries, with guys not being eligible, so Cronin didn't throw everybody out there. But it was pretty glaring, apparently, with that closed-door scrimmage. The Bruins couldn't score, and they lost. In San Diego State, the Bruins put in points. Maybe it was more than they would allow during the regular season. The games are a little different. Some fans might get a little chirpy because they're a little more coaches controlled. The officials don't got thousands of fans just yelling and bellowing down, whether it's at Viejas Arena or at Pauley Pavilion. That obviously usually makes a factor and changes everything. But these closed-door scrimmages, the most neutral feeling of sorts that you can get and a good idea how good this team is going to be to start. 2 years ago, they beat San Diego State. Last year, lost to, I think Santa Clara, if I'm not mistaken. Ugly. This year, all right, let's see what San Diego State's made of, right? They're trying to flex their muscle with Pac-12, future perennial status maybe on their radar. A team that's unfortunately dropped the last 2 years to a UConn, but they know what it takes to play a national championship team. And that's what UCLA, I believe, has coming next in a closed-door scrimmage, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. Just like I can't wait to talk and wrap up this episode about Bill Walton Day. All right? Bill Walton Day here at UCLA will be in 2025 in February when they play Ohio State. Let's talk about that next on Locked On UCLA. NFL fans, you want to check out FanDuel, get a big return on FanDuel. You can start the season off big. Go to America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. All right, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Hey, let me tell you that again. When you get started, you place your first $5 bet, you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. All right, UCLA football, they're playing Rutgers. How do you think they're going to go? You think it's going to be UCLA as the underdog again to maybe cover on the road? Or do you think it'll be a little different and it might come down to the last second where it's a bad beat, late coverage blown, and UCLA falls at Rutgers, which at the moment is fluctuating like it did for the Minnesota game between a one touchdown, the point spread. You got to check it out on FanDuel.com. That's where you get started. That's where you can get that $5 bet into $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. FanDuel.com. All right, let's talk to you about the Bill Walton game. All right, UCLA is planning to honor Bill Walton, of course, right? This is the guy who passed away in May, had cancer, had to battle. He was a legendary broadcaster, legendary figure in the sport, legendary UCLA icon, right? All those words put together. This is a man who literally represented what it meant to be a UCLA Bruin and on off the court in his own way. Wild, crazy, fun stuff in the broadcasting world. Champion of the Pac-12 conference when UCLA and the conference was still in its original iteration, Pac-10, Pac-8, the original Conference of Champions. So UCLA is going to honor Bill Walton February 23rd, 2025 to play Ohio State. So they want more of a bigger brand name team to come in, a weekend home game, which with the way the schedule is playing out, the Friday, Saturday, Sundays, it's all a little funky with, a Monday, Tuesday. UCLA plays every day of the week but Wednesday, basically, in conference play. They play February 23rd. The fans who go will have a commemorative poster to celebrate Bill Walton's life and legacy. And most importantly, the students are going to get tie-dye T-shirts. I think they should all, to represent, because Bill Walton would always wear those when he broadcasted games. Why not the student sections? Why not the student section wear like tie-dye shirts the entire season, right? To honor Bill Walton. Like instead of the blue and gold, wear tie-dye shirts every home game and give it a tribute to Bill Walton. You don't need to wait till February 23rd. Put it on, get tie-dye shirts, and do it, right? This is what Cronin's statement was about Bill Walton. It's a difficult reality to know we're getting ready to start a basketball season in Westwood without Bill's presence. Mick Cronin's statement about Bill Walton. He will forever be an icon in our great game, and his memory will live on at UCLA. And this is a guy who would go talk to everybody, go be an important figure in the game of basketball, and as lively as it gets. And the Bruins are going to honor the legendary and late Bill Walton against Ohio State. And I'm thinking if you're the student section, they should make it happen where let's go tie-dye shirts every game for a true home game. Celebrate, all right? I think every UCLA fan, we should all show up in tie-dye shirts. Everybody. If you even own one, show up in a tie-dye shirt and just celebrate Bill Walton. I know they're only going to hand it out to the students. They're all going to give fans posters. But I hope let's pack that game out, celebrate the man. I know I failed on this podcast by not giving him a true memorial episode, but hopefully we'll try and do one a little bit closer to then. But remember, legendary quotes, legendary broadcasts that would make you laugh, make you a little frustrated, most likely other fans, but he was just a character to enjoy, to embrace, just his heart and hustle on and off the court, and just everything he did. You can embrace the way he just loved just the game of basketball and beyond that. And it's great to see what is going to come. The UCLA honoring of Bill Walton. There was nothing short of that going to happen. But now we know the date, February 23rd, 2025. That's the UCLA release. They're playing Ohio State at Pauley Pavilion. It's when the family could come honor him. So they had to be able to mix it all together, get the big name team, get a huge crowd. We don't want any embarrassing small crowd. Doesn't matter how good the team is. Go sell out Pauley. Go wear your tie-dye shirts. Wear your Bill Walton jerseys. All right? Whether it's NBA, UCLA, blue and gold, tie-dye, something. And let's celebrate the legacy, the life, and the man Bill Walton was to UCLA. All right? And with that, we're going to end this podcast. And we need a loud 8 clap for it, okay? Get your hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins. We love you, Bill.